Welcome, everyone, to Monday Night Live. Hello, welcome to the show, because you are now tuned into a brand spanking new Monday Night Live. That's right, aka the Hangout stream, aka the Chill stream, baby. All fired up and having some fun for February 27th, 2023, and brought to you by yours truly, the man broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com or simply Google this name and you can find out. How you doing? Did you have a week? How was it? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it ugly? You can let me know in the comment section down below. You don't have to get too personal with it. Did you read any good books lately? See any good movies? Let me break down what's on the agenda for tonight. Tonight, I have a video book report by a content creator who recently joined the Booktube realm of YouTube. And I would like to mention what I find so significant about that while we kind of learn a little bit about the novel that he is reviewing as well. So we'll be watching that. We got that set up. I have some book deals to announce, including some middle grade and children's lit for you guys. An interesting crowdfunding campaign presented by a comic book publisher. So not just an author or creator, but what it appears to be is a comic book publisher. More details on that when we get around to it. I have some macabre reading material lined up for reading time tonight. And of course, I have your comments to get to, as well as a hot topic to discuss. But before all that, before I get to all of that, first things first, I like to take this time to slide right inside my first segment of the night, where I like to talk about some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. And this first one comes from Twitter. We have Christopher Kügler. Says, with all the travel delays and holiday headaches out there, here's a free book for y'all. Is this the start of a revolution, or is it all just a part of the show? Brutal and raw. The Eagle's Hammer leaves you guessing until the very end. Tune in or else. Very interesting presentation on that one. Let's check it out. This is The Eagle's Hammer by Christopher Kügler. Of course, all these books are suggested to me directly by the publishers themselves, whether they are self-pubbed authors or it comes from an indie label or a small press company. Never know what you're going to get on the live stream. Okay, there's the cover on that one. Welcome to America 2073, where what you believe depends on what the TrueCast Corporation tells you. The Eagle's Hammer, the network's pride and joy, is a paramilitary death squad whose exploits are broadcast daily. You, the viewer at home, you watch as the team hunts down and murders alleged criminals live for all to see. Not because you want to watch, but because you have to. It's the law. That's brutal. Taylor Evans, he's the team's celebrated leader. He gets the close up again and again, and he gets the kill night after night. But when he finally refuses to pull the trigger, now it's Evans on the run, teaming up with a budding resistance movement. Maybe Evans can be a hero after all. Together, they square off against the network itself, determined to bring it down in flames. You, the viewer, you can't get enough of this. It sounds like the perfect recipe for a revolution, right? But maybe it's a little too good. Could all of this, Evans going AWOL, the resistance, could it all just be a part of the show? Is the TrueCast Corporation still pulling the strings? Brutal and raw. The Eagle's Hammer leaves you guessing until the very end. Quite compelling. 323 pages. Cyberpunk, science fiction, dystopian fiction. To add that one to the old TBR. I think I already have it on my TBR, actually. Almost sounds like a almost sounds a little bit like The Running Man in a way, like The Running Man, or at least like in that type of universe. Because I remember like in that movie Running Man, there was like these type of game shows and stuff like that. Except this doesn't sound like it's a game show. It's more like, you know, like how the cops have like body cams now. That's basically what it is, like live broadcasting, like you're following these, except it's the death squads. Jesus. Sounds brutal. But cool. Very cool. Hello, Reina-chan. How are you? Oh, good, good. Yeah. Why not, right? You got a little downtime, get some words in. Let's see what we got next. Coming up next here. Another one from Twitter. We have Matthew David Shultz. Okay, he says, looking for something new? Check out this fresh new sci-fi fantasy. It's a read on Kindle Unlimited for free. And this is Emergence, Rivets of Resistance. Emergence, huh? Don't ask, don't tell, I suppose, huh? Is this part of your you starting your Gimp Man series? TM, trademarked. Let's check out Emergence, Rivets of Resistance by Matthew David Shultz. In all seriousness, is that like an actual project that you're doing for yourself, or is it like an entry into for somebody else? Or can you even speak on it? All right, there's the cover. Armageddon has come and gone, thanks to a mysterious invading force from beyond the stars. With 80% of humanity reduced to dust, the occupying aliens have had no trouble stamping out any resistance and preventing attempts to invigorate society until now. Lucas Kane, a seemingly normal young man with an abnormal mutation, watched his family, friends, and everything he held dear get taken from him at the hands of the ruthless alien threat bringing nuclear apocalypse to planet Earth. With nothing left to lose, he joins the North American Defense Force and volunteers for the top secret Temporal Augmentation Regiment to enact his vengeance and help keep the jaws of extinction at bay. Through arduous trials in a simulated training environment, he becomes a living weapon, perfecting his combat skills and dispatching his foes with cold efficiency. But none of this will bring his family back. Kind of insinuates that he has a little bit of a struggle with a little bit of an internal struggle there. Filled with action, explosions, sarcasm, teenage love, and underground mobile cities, this novel takes readers on a journey with Lucas through a mind-bending quest of torturous loss, grisly victory, and a whole lot of emotional trauma that could end up in him losing grip of his own humanity. Yeah, a little bit of trauma goes a long way in terms of building characters, what I always say. 461 pages of dystopian science fiction, first contact science fiction. Oh, a couple back-to-back dystopians tonight. Interesting. Interesting. Action-packed dystopians at that. Yes, it's a thing. It's coming to fruition. It's becoming a reality. That stuff, depending on where you put it, it's it could be pretty popular. Not serialized. Will indie publish it? Just not sure where yet. Yeah, I hear you. With my so I have this project that is kind of like in brainstorming stage right now, Rainer, that I had mentioned in my recap video. I wanted to do something with sword and sorcery and do like a serialized thing, but I'm not really quite sure where. It's like I say, it's just early stages right now, brainstorming stage. But that aside, I'm also on the back of my mind, I'm thinking about like, where do I want to publish it? Because I don't just want to like flood my Amazon Kindle page with just a crap ton of short fiction, because I'm already using my KDP account for my Codex and Fernie series, which is all just a kind of a variety of short stories. So I don't want to kind of mix and match that, on there. You know what I mean? So like when people go to like my author page, they just see like a lot of like shorts, because eventually I would like to try my hand at publishing like a novel, or at least a novella or something like that. And I'd probably end up putting that on Amazon. So I kind of want to make it distinct, so it's easy to tell like what's my shorts. In other words, I'm making it kind of uniformed in a sense. My short stories, that is, like they all kind of have the same cover. So it's easily identifiable. Okay, this is a short story, aside from it obviously having it in the title itself. But just from visual aspect, like look at it, be like, okay, this is all his short story work. And then say I do a novella or a novel, then I would probably have like some kind of unique type of artwork to that. So you can easily identify, okay, this is a novella or this is the novel. But with this sword and sorcery thing idea that I have, I want to make it serialized for one. So serialized, I'm putting out, these episodes periodically, and it's an ongoing thing. But I may release it in like chunks, like season chunks. So I'll be like, oh, I'll run it a season from X date to X date. Like there's a beginning time, there's a set beginning time and a set end time, and they're going to be dispersed out. But I don't want to do that on Amazon. And I don't, so far from what I've learned about like Kindle Vella, I'm really not interested in getting involved in that platform as of right now. Kindle Vella, as it stands right now, it seems like Kindle Vella is favoring the romance genres, like paranormal romance, basically any kind of romance and the subgenres of. So I don't think that that's the right platform right now. Plus, I don't want to just be I don't want to be forced to give away my work, for my premium work, for free. You know what I mean? That's what I have my own blog for. All my free stuff is through my own website. That's and I haven't used anything else as of yet. As far as free stuff goes. So I'm looking for platforms. I'm thinking maybe I'll use Patreon for that, or for instance, like Subscribestar, and like do it on both. That's what I'm kind of kicking around right now. So if people choose, they can say, okay, I'll support it through, I'll check it out through the Patreon, or I'll check it out through Subscribestar. So it's like a choice there for those types of users, but it's the same content. You know what I mean? It's the same content, but just two different platforms. And I'm trying to think of like, what would be like a creative way, instead of just posting it just like text only, like what would be a creative way of like kind of creating a post and delivering the material in like a creative way that would like keep people, not only like be engaging, but like keep people like kind of coming back. And I'm trying to come up with a way of kind of incorporating some sort of platform through my website, and then that would kind of coerce, well, maybe coerce isn't the word, but persuade people, you know what I mean, to go and check out either the Patreon or the Subscribestar. You can't catch my drift on that. Yeah, Vella. Yeah, the Vella. Maybe not for sword and sorcery, at least not right now. I don't think that there's the type of audience that's on there. I don't think it'll do well. But then even then, when I say Patreon and Subscribestar, it's like those platforms aren't typically used, as far as I know, they aren't typically used for people posting, fiction and stuff like that. So I don't know how much of a reader base I could grow organically just by using those platforms alone. In other words, I would have to direct traffic. I would have to do direct marketing to those platforms. In other words, I think, in order to actually build up a reader base. But the thing about it is, it might, I don't know, it's just, like I say, it's in the brainstorming phase. Hey, TJ, what's going on, man? Good to have you here. TJ says, I was originally going to publish my own story on Vella, but I also noticed that romance is the most popular genre. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm just looking at it I'm not just looking at it in terms of reader base, though. Like, I'm also looking at it in terms of the platform itself. So, okay, because for instance, there's no, like I say, there's really no, I don't know how much of a reader base there is through Patreon or Subscribestar. But what I'm saying is, in terms of the platform, I have more control over that. Like, in other words, how often I post, what people have to pay to see. In other words, if I'm working to put together premium content, I want to be able to set the price based on the value, how I value that content. You know what I mean? And if people appreciate that value, they appreciate it. If they don't, they don't. But I want to have that kind of control. And with Kindle Vella, it's like you are obligated to have your first 3 episodes be free. So and then at that point, it's like, okay, what are your first 3 episodes? What do they look like? Are you just going to skimp out and you're just going to make it, these short little, whatever the bare minimum is for the first 3 episodes? And at that point, it looks like you're kind of chinsing the reader, like, on purpose. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, if I can set the price from the get-go, I can just say, look, guys, this is what it's going to be. And I'm going to be transparent with it so people know exactly what they're paying for. You say, listen, I'm going to have I got a serialized project. This is my a serialized project that's going to have X amount of episodes that are planned, because I'm going to have it planned ahead of time. Wouldn't just be flying by the seat of my pants. It's all going to be planned out ahead of time. I say, guys, this is a serialized project, and this is how it's going to work, creatively wise. But this is what you can expect from the project for your money. There's going to be X amount of episodes planned from this date, starting from this date to this date. And that's going to be season 1. And then maybe I would talk about, whether or not there will be, when the next season will be or anything like that. Or if it's just going to be a trial run, and just say, listen, this is a trial run. I want to see how this goes, see if I like it, see how much interest I can get in it, and then we'll go from there and we'll reevaluate. So just to let you guys know, this is a pay to play as far as that goes. You got to pay, whether it be monthly or per post or however I want to set it up. But this is how long it's going to run. And then at the end of that, then I'm going to touch base with you guys and let you know where I stand. And then you can decide, if you're going to, if you're done with the Patreon and the Subscribestar and all that shit, as far as that goes. Rainer says, yeah, Patreon and Subscribestar can have prime content, but not really geared towards serial writers. Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at it from, yes, as of right now, I'm just looking at it from a pragmatic standpoint. Just, I know that you can set up the posts to look how you want them to look. So in other words, I can incorporate images, I can incorporate audio, I can incorporate video. So it's multimedia. Each individual post, I can incorporate multiple forms of media. So I'm trying to think of like a creative way of how I can kind of take advantage of that to kind of deliver a unique storytelling experience for this particular project, is basically kind of how I'm looking at it. Maybe Substack. I've heard of Substack. Yeah, I mean, that's another one. There's a bunch of them out there. And there's like some more obscure ones too that are like trying to build up for serialized. Like I came across this one. It's called, what is it here? I can't remember where I put the Mithril. Mithril? Serialized. It's a serialized reading app for sci-fi and fantasy specifically, and it's called Mithril. I was looking at that because it had like some interesting. It seems like it's in its infancy stage though, and I don't know what the longevity. That's another thing too, is the longevity of these platforms. And I know Patreon has been around for a long time now. I remember when Patreon first showed up, and Subscribestar has been around for a while now. So it's not a matter of, is the platform going to be here, 5 years from now, that type of thing. That's also something I'm kind of taking into consideration. And that's another thing with Vela, is like with Kindle Vela, it's like it's not even worldwide as of right now. So that's another thing that kind of holds you back. Plus the whole token thing is kind of gay to me, because it's like they can just set the price to whatever they want. It's like, just pay me in currency. You know what I mean? Just pay me in currency, and then at the end of the month, either my PayPal or my bank account gets a payment. You know what I mean? I just want to do that. I don't want to like cash in tokens or anything like that. Yeah, if you can do it through your own website, more power to you. It's hard to get traffic though. That's the thing. And that's why I do, like, my website is kind of just a hub for, like, it's like my central hub, if you will. It's my HQ, my headquarters, where I put all my stuff, and I keep track. I catalog everything and I log everything. That's what I kind of use my website for. Then I have my blog and stuff like that. So it's kind of like my HQ, if you will. But then when it comes to anything that has to do with money, exchanging hands, that's when I like to use third-party platforms, because I think for the general public, it's kind of it gives people a peace of mind when when there's money involved, that it's kind of a trusted platform versus just you're paying through somebody's personal website. Even though there are, like, for instance, like, I use Weebly, and Weebly was bought out by Squarespace. So they use Squarespace for doing transactions and stuff like that, which is actually a trusted platform. So it's not that you can't do it. You can set it up, but usually that costs a little bit extra depending on what kind of content you're selling through your website. Like, it costs extra, like, whether you pay monthly or annually, whatever. Let's get into it. Let's get into these last two books here. I got another one from Twitter, and this is from someone who is also very involved in the indie scene, especially around like the Booktube, Authortube realm of YouTube. And this comes from Ron Liddell Lahr, or Lahr. He says, look, I'm not writing this to feed my ego, or to get free drinks, or have ladies throw themselves at me. I'm sure that will all happen, but it's not why I'm doing this. And of course, that's a quote from one of his characters in chapter 1, which I found pretty humorous. And this is his Children of Kathaldi. This is book 1 of the Kathaldi Chronicles. So let's check this one out. A little fantasy now. Moving into some fantasy. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that too. It's just, different ideas that are popping up. It's fun to think about. Let's see. Here is the book cover. And TJ, you working on anything new or what? You can let me know. If you can let me know, that is. If it's not top secret or confidential information. All right, there's the cover. Pretty slick looking cover. Definitely on point and on genre. All right. Let's get to the blurb here. Dirk is a scoundrel. Period. Dirk is a scoundrel. Some would say a jerk. He'll admit it. But his ambition only goes as far as his next heist. It's not that he's against noble causes or grand adventures. To hear him tell it, he's had a few, as long as there's something in it for him. But when a childhood friend shows up with an unbelievable tale, Dirk must decide if he really is up for adventure worthy of the songs of bards. The last time that Kathaldi battled the gods, they nearly destroyed the world. Can Dirk and his companions prevent the world from sliding into chaos once more? If women and treasure await, he's going to give it his best shot. Definitely, if not selling us on the plot, definitely selling me on the character here. I dig it. 219 pages. To add that one to the old TBR right now. 219 pages, not too long. A new adult and college fantasy, action, adventure, fantasy, sword, and sorcery. Speaking of fantasy. Very nice. All right, and let's go on to the last one here. One more from the Twitters. This comes from Brenda Chun, RD. And Brenda writes 18 best new low-fat diet books to read in 2023 and 13 best low cholesterol cooking books of all time. It's from Book Authority, apparently. Something a little bit different, a little nonfiction for the live stream right here with the 5-ingredient low cholesterol cookbook, 85 heart healthy recipes by Brenda Chun, RD. Wow. Let's check this out. There it is. There it is. All you young men out there, pay attention. Don't be you got yourselves a little girlfriend or something like that. Don't be buying her jewelry. Okay? Don't be spending your money on, lavish gifts like designer handbags and stuff like that. No. This is what you buy your girlfriends. Okay? This is the type of stuff you buy your girlfriend right here. You get her all trained up. Make sure she's all trained up before you even consider her to be long-term, girlfriend or wifey material right here. Make sure she's trained up. She knows her way around the kitchen. All right. You don't want to be shacking up with no broad that survives off DoorDash and restaurants. Okay. She'll empty your wallet quick, fast, and in a hurry if that's the case. 5 ingredients, and low cholesterol. So it's a win-win as far as that goes. So get her all trained up. Make sure she knows her way around the kitchen before you even consider her long-term material. All right. Here's the blurb. Eat smarter and manage your heart health with simple, low cholesterol recipes. Lowering your cholesterol doesn't have to feel like a chore. This low cholesterol cookbook makes it simple to eat heart healthy with recipes that require only 5 main ingredients, focused around affordable, easy to find, and unprocessed ingredients. These meals are a breeze to put together, so managing cholesterol is doable and delicious. The 5-ingredient low cholesterol cookbook features essential info on cholesterol. Learn the ins and the outs of how cholesterol works in your body and why low cholesterol cooking can help you stay healthy. Recipes that follow medical guidelines. Discover a low cholesterol cookbook full of dishes that are in line with trusted medical advice to limit saturated and trans fats, sodium, and cholesterol. Tips to prepare your kitchen. Find out how to shop smart and organize a heart healthy kitchen by stocking up on the right tools and pantry items. It's easy to manage your diet with a low cholesterol cookbook that makes cooking at home simple and delicious. 207 pages of low cholesterol cookbook action and satisfaction. Very nice. Pay attention, gentlemen. You want to make sure she has her home economic game is up to snuff. Right? Seems to be a lost skill in this day and age. But during times of economic crisis, definitely comes in handy. I'll tell you that right now. Learn your way around a crock pot. That's for sure. Crock pot is a beautiful thing to have. I'll tell you that right now. And those are the books. Those are the books, ladies and gentlemen. So you can tune in. Go ahead. You can shoot over to the community tab if you're watching this on the replay, and it'll probably be there, but I usually post it the following day after this broadcast. And you can vote for which one out of those 4 books you thought had the most text appeal. That's right. In other words, which one out of those 4 books would you be most likely to pick up? And if you would like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my shorts tab or my playlist and open up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, you'll see a cover card, which reveals a book that has been recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich network. And it also includes a link to an editorial written on that book by yours truly. All right, set up the next segment here. Yeah, so projects. With each one of my projects, like, I kind of want to make it so, like, each one of, like, my marquee projects, whether they be, like, my short stories or, like, a collaborative project, or once I'm ready to get into, like, novellas, or, for instance, like this serialized project that I kind of am brainstorming. I want each one to kind of be its own kind of unique experience, if you will. Like, I don't want to just like present them all like in the same way. And I do have some ideas kind of for this this serialized project, which I'm pretty excited about. I wish I could say more about it, but to be honest with you, it's not that I do have anything more to say about it. I just haven't even gotten that far yet. But I will say this. I think that short form fiction is on the rise. That's for sure. And I think that it's going to become more popular, not just short form, but like, like pulp fiction, that type of stuff. I think it's going to become more popular, like as more and more artists kind of like get involved in the writing scene and in the indie scene, because it kind of gives, I feel like the reason why I like the short form is because it kind of gives you a little bit of a sample, just a quick sample of like someone's writing style, the type of work that they're into. That's why I like it. I feel like, it's not shitting on anyone that is putting together a novel right now. Definitely write that novel, put it out there, do the best work that you can and put it out there, however you want. Worry about the marketing and advertising after the fact. I always say it's better to just get something done, have something published, than worry about, the marketing. You can worry about the marketing, advertising after the fact, because that's, quite honestly, that's something that everybody struggles with. But yeah, but what I've always said is that I feel like if your the first piece of work that you publish is a novel, and it's like some 800-page tome, it's, I can only state the obvious here and just make it kind of like abundantly clear that, it's kind of a big ask. It's kind of a big ask, especially if you don't have anything else to direct people to. Like you have no, like I would say, if you're going to do something like that, at least have like, maybe you have an anchor story or something like attached to a newsletter, something that people can read for free, or you have like a blog or something like that you can direct people to, something that people can look at. All right. All right, let's get into the next segment here. Let's make some announcements. I've got some announcements for you guys. Let's see what we got first up here. First up, coming from Twitter, this is Eric and Sandra's Fitness. That's just the name of their Twitter, but it says, searching for your next great story or activity to share with the kids? Let's go! Check out A Grizzly Bear Getaway and other great books for 7 to 14-year-olds for a limited time. Yes. This is one of the book deals I was telling you guys about. And this is, kids need entertainment too, So I do all kinds of stuff here on the live stream. And this is the Big Kids book giveaway for February 2023 via Book Funnel. Let's check this one out real quick. Kind of get a feel for, give you guys a little glimpse the type of books that we got on here. We got a countdown on this one. You guys, there's 1 day left on this. Let's see here. All right. Let's see. Big Kids book giveaway. You got free stories and activities for 7 to 14-year-olds. All right. So it expires tomorrow. You got 1 day, 5 hours, 14 minutes, and counting. Get your hands on these type of books. Let's see what's on here. That's some pretty cool looking covers on here. Definitely looks like we got some interesting looking middle grade type stuff here. Island of the Fog. That's pretty badass looking cover. Let's see, got a little bit of children's horror in there. All right. That's cool. Some fantasy. Definitely got to get some fantasy in there. Let's see. Where's the bear one that I wanted to look at? Let's see. Minecraft. Truth or Poop. Amazing Animals. There it is. Exploring Nature. Exploring Nature Books. A Grizzly Bear Getaway. See what happens if I click on this. Does it pop up? Oh, very good. All right, so you can download your copy of Hudson and Isabella in Grizzly Bear Getaway. You get an excerpt, I suppose. You get your sneak peek. So there you go. Something for the kids. And speaking of the kids, let's see, we got something else here. Got something else for the kids, and this comes from Paramedic. This is the Paramedic Chris book series. He says the Paramedic Chris, the author of the Paramedic Chris book series, he says the Paramedic Chris children's book series are available on audiobook on his homepage to his website or on Audible. All right. So that is the author. The author, Tim Parsons, he presents his Paramedic Chris audio books and merch. What I'll do is I'll link. I'll share the link that he gave to me in the show notes. I'll add that in post-production. But let's check out. Let's see if I can load up his website here. So I kind of give you guys a little preview of what's going on here, what it looks like. I won't preview any of the audio or anything like that. You guys can do that on your own time. But let's check out his website. Huh? Take a little peek. There we go. So we got Paramedic Chris children's books by Tim Parsons. And you got the homepage here. He's got his audiobooks, audio versions. And then please click on the images below to get them on Audible. So there you go. He's got them all nice and laid out there for you. He's got some different, looks like he's got some different stories. And man, he's got a little YouTube thank you here for those of you who check it out. And apparently he actually worked, Paramedic Chris books were inspired by real life events with the ambulance service crew where I formerly served as a chaplain. All right. So that's pretty cool. Write what you know, I suppose. There it is. Now, if you guys have something that you'd like me to announce during future broadcasts, of course, the easiest way to do that is to join the Discord. Yes. Well, you can join the Discord. We have two options now. You can either join the Gilded, server or the Discord server. And those links are always, always, always in the show notes down below, right from the start of the video. So you can just go ahead, go down there, do yourself a favor, and join one of those two servers or both if you'd like. And all it really is I want you guys to be able to use it as a resource, like a direct line of connection, if you will, between you and I where you can just go in there and there's all these different channels that I already have set up. So you can just share your links with me, whatever it may be, whether it be you got a new release, you got some videos that you'd like me to check out. You've got, a writing project that you'd like to pitch, like an anthology project, or if you're a reader and you run like a book club, or you want to schedule a specific, like a buddy read or something like that. You got some sort of reading event that you'd like to schedule and you want people to know about, I might be inclined to get involved if it's, a book by an indie author or something like that. I think that would be fun. I'm kind of keeping an eye out on something like that, but it's kind of slow going right now as far as getting people to join, but it's not, I don't want you to think it's not meant to be like, I'm not doing it to turn it into a social affair. In other words, I don't need you to report to me what's going on in your social life or your personal life or anything like that. I don't require you to chit chat and create small talk before you can get involved and start sharing your links. No, if you just want to go ahead, click join, and then you just use it when you have something to share, by all means. But don't let that hold you back from, maybe networking with some other people that are already a part of the servers, and get to know people. I want it to be an open line of communication. It's all voluntary. We're all adults here, and you guys can communicate amongst yourselves, talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about, whatever you choose to talk about. If you want to network with each other and share your own groups and servers or what have you, you can do so. It's no problem with me. I just have it there. So I feel like it's going to be, in the long run, make it so I don't have to do as much social media, and I can just kind of focus on these servers, and I can set up the shows, because I plan these shows ahead of time. Like, in other words, the books and stuff that I'm going to talk about. So it'd be great if I can just have people joining the servers and keeping me updated with different projects and stuff that I can then in turn and bring on to the broadcast and talk about it. Let's see who else is here. Hey, D.A. Bell. Hello, Governor. How you doing? All right, moving right along. See what we got next. We got a campaign to talk about. This comes from Bracy Dramatics. On Twitter, they write, "Well, I stand by Bloodworld from Raincross Press. We've launched a crowdfund for a sci-fi anthology set in the 26th of the Sol System, in the vein of 2000 AD and heavy metal. You got mutants, you got cyborgs, gene engineered people, and wasteland survivors, and more." And I think this project was a little bit different than what I've been used to so far as crowdfunding goes. So let's check this out. This is a project. It's going by the name of Bloodworld #1. This campaign is live on Indiegogo as of right now. So we won't say any more about it until we got the full picture here. Okay. So Bloodworld. let you guys watch the video on that one on your own time. We'll just get a little preview of this artwork here. Look at that freaking armor, huh? So let's see what this is about. 300 billion people, 6 epic stories. Their future is a struggle for power, supremacy, and survival. Okay. So far, it looks, this is by Raincross Press. And so far, they've raised $704 of their $9,200 flexible goal. So 7% of their goal so far. Getting down to the wire here. Only 17 days left on this one. It says, welcome to Blood World. Who are Raincross Press and what is Blood World? That's what inquiring minds want to know. Raincross Press is a collection of writers and artists from across the globe who have partnered together to create independent titles that focus on storytelling and world building. We want to spark your imagination and provide you with an entertaining experience that makes you yearn for the next part of the story. So is it all in the same vein or same universe or what? Let's see. Blood World is our debut graphic title based on the Blood World universe by writer D.W. Howard. This science fiction epic takes place in our solar system in the year 2587. The setting can best be described as 1 part Dune, 1 part Game of Thrones, and 1 part Gattaca, with a smattering of fantasy and Blade Runner thrown in for good measure. The format for the book has taken inspiration from foundational titles like 2000 AD and Heavy Metal, and will be an 80-plus page graphic anthology of stories and additional content in each issue. So multiple issues here. Interesting. Your support on this project will help us bring our dream to life so that we can deliver that vision to you. All of us here at Raincross fell in love with this vision of the far future, and your support will allow us to bring this world to life for you, our readers. Your support will fund the final artwork for the book, the printing and shipping costs, and packaging. We are committed to hitting the ground running, and your support will help us in that goal. So one interesting thing to note here with some of these projects is how I think that they kind of present it. So what it kind of sounds like to me, and of course I don't have any of the representatives here to kind of speak on behalf of the project, but just I can only speak from a consumer standpoint here, or like a potential supporter, if you will. So from that perspective, what it kind of sounds like to me is that if you don't reach your funding goal for this project, then you're not going to be able to it's going to be difficult. I shouldn't say not going to be, but it's going to be difficult for you to deliver as promised. So it sounds like you're kind of relying on, it definitely sounds like you're relying on hitting that goal. So let's go on. Let's see if maybe they get a little bit more specific down at the bottom here. Some of this art looks pretty badass though. That guy got 3 arms. Definitely pretty cool looking artwork. And I would say this sounds like a very, I don't know that if this is Raincross Press's first project. Definitely sounds very ambitious. I will say that much. What we need. Okay, so what we need and what you get. So what do we need? Making a graphic anthology can be a pricey endeavor. Doubly so if you want to make a quality product. We are seeking a minimum of $9,200 to fund the rest of the artwork on the book, the printing services for physical copies, shipping materials, and production costs for a variety of perks that we will be offering. We are going to be utilizing flexible funding, and any funds raised are refundable if our campaign does not reach its goal. So there you go. That's what I was wondering. If you stay with us, that money will be used to progress the art, and all orders on this campaign will be honored in the follow-up campaign. Interesting. So what will you get? Everyone who buys a tier other than the donation tier will receive 80 plus digital pages of science fiction content that includes 6 story arcs from our feature writers, 2 one-page mini story arcs from 2 of our artists, Blood World feature content giving you more of an in-depth look at the world our characters inhabit. You'll get 1 free digital comic from each of the 3 complimentary #1 indie packs, buyer's choice, generously donated by the independent comic community to aid us and reward you as we make this dream a reality. 1 piece of high-quality digital art from inside the book, the satisfaction of being part of the launch. So what's this? Each order of Blood World gets 1 complimentary digital comic from each pack. So I'm assuming each one of these is one of the packs. Many thanks to the independent creators who donated their art to help us realize our dream. So this is what I was wondering right here, like what all these were. So it looks like you get a digital copy of 1 of each of these packs of comics. Then it goes into the stretch goals and stuff like that. But interesting project. Seems like a bit of an ambitious project, but nevertheless, I do like to see indie creators, coming together and collaborating with each other. And now I have some fiction here for you guys. I mean, some literature. So this comes from Jeff Kerr. He says a free short story. His short story, Death Train. About that for a title, huh? It says, clinging to life, staring at death. There is only one way for Miranda Flores to reach Mexico City, and that's atop a moving train. Yet reach it she must. So apparently she's very desperate to get to Mexico City for some damn reason, because she's willing to risk her life to do so. So perhaps a short story thriller of some sort. This is, you can get Jeff Kerr's short story, Death Train, for free. Let's see how you're going to do that. I believe it's a link to a personalized, you can do this like personalized book funnel type deal here. I think that's what this is. Yeah. I've been meaning to look into this book funnel thing and see what this is all about. I think it's it seems like it's a little platform, basically a platform for collecting email addresses and building up a newsletter, I should say, building up a newsletter. Anyways, if you're interested in this this thrilling short story here. You can get a free copy of it. You can get the story. Just go ahead and sign up to his newsletter there, and you'll get the story. And speaking of stories, the Storyteller Society is still accepting submissions, you guys. If you're looking to collaborate and build a little peer-to-peer, business-to-business relationship with yours truly, this is a project that I launched early last year. And what we're looking for is flash fiction. Okay, flash fiction. So for this particular project, I'm looking for flash fiction that is between 500 to 2,000 words. Okay, and it can be any genre. And I've actually updated the submission form so it includes a category drop-down menu. So you can help me figure out like how to categorize your work, and you can submit. For instance, you could submit the way that I'm going to be marketing this project is it doesn't matter what genre it is. If your work is approved, then you will effectively book yourself a room at what I'm effectively calling the Hotel del SS, which is where your writing is presented. So in each room, so in other words, each room within the Hotel del SS is kind of like its own individual experience where you can discover an independent author and see what they have submitted. Now, I incorporated categories now, so I'm thinking about maybe revamping the room setup so you can kind of get an idea before you read their work, like what kind of categories the author is writing in. So just a way, just an opportunity there for those of you who are aspiring authors and you've yet to have any of your work published online. This might be an opportunity that you'd be interested in. There's no contracts. It is a non-exclusive agreement. So all you're doing is agreeing to the terms of service. Okay, that's all it is. So this could be a piece of work that you have published elsewhere, so long as you own the copyright and you have the right to give me permission to republish it here on my blog. And then in terms of news, we do have the weekly newsletter. I do have the weekly newsletter for you guys. And let's see. This is something that I do. Well, this is something that I do once a week. And if you want to stay up to date with what's going on, whether it be on the channel, on the website, there's links on there to my premium work. There's also links to the servers, the group servers. So if you guys want to get in on that. And other than that, it's just basically where you're going to kind of get a quick snapshot of everything that happened in the previous week. And that has to do with the brand, the Live Free, Live Rich brand itself. Now, a reason why you may want to sign up for this is like, say you don't want to join the group servers, you're not active on social media. This is kind of like a way to still keep tabs and stay in touch with what's going on with the brand. But also down the road here, I'm thinking about incorporating something exclusive that is going to be attached to this newsletter. So something like, for those of you who are subscribed to the newsletter, I'm going to incorporate some sort of system or something like that that will make you guys eligible for, say, like exclusive giveaways, sweepstakes, stuff like that. Different fun little things, just as kind of like a thank you for signing up for the newsletter. That's it for announcements. All right. Let's move into the next segment. I'm going to be addressing some of your comments now in a little as needed segment that I like to call Your Comments Matter. Yes, my comment section is not there to satisfy AI algorithms. My comment section is there to interact with those of you who choose to give my videos the time of day. So that is what I'm going to be doing right here and right now. Let's get into it. These can be comments on any video across the entire channel. All right, you weighing in. I want to know. And these are the comments that you guys drop down below, by the way. So if you don't catch these streams while they're live, you are encouraged to still interact by leaving a comment down below, because I will go back and address the comments that were left. So it's kind of like I say, to incentivize. The whole reason why I started doing this, because I want to incentivize engagement, encourage engagement. That's what I want. Don't sit on your hands. Come in here and start getting involved. Okay, here we go. So it looks like last week, the right mindset, Thomas Beleza, from last week's stream, he says, I agree with you about not giving too much of an author's personal life out there on social media. What I meant by allowing people to connect to you emotionally is to showcase the things that matter to you, things that would most likely seep through into your writing. So like themes, philosophies, but also an author's expertise, personality, etc. Basically, if an author writes, if an author cares about having a sense of hope, they might write hopeful stories. If an author loves the underdog winning, they write those stories. My big thing is community, working together, teamwork, family, and we are strongest when we work together with people that elevate one another. My social media reflects community interaction, but so does my nonprofit, Team Rise Together. That's branding and building a platform for others to connect with. All right. Yeah, I forget exactly what that was in regard to. Maybe we were talking about like marketing or something like that, and having a social media presence. And that's always been my thing, is like the social media presence. It's like a double-edged sword. Like I really don't care to like share, get involved in people's personal lives and stuff like that on social media. But there is to a certain degree, I do understand like where Thomas is coming from in terms of your marketing. People are connecting with you. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Like people connect with you. They don't connect with your book per se. Like in other words, like you are not your book. So it's like when you're doing social media marketing and stuff like that, you're showing people like who you are as a person. Like, in other words, like what your beliefs and stuff like that. But even then, like, I feel like it reveals too much sometimes. Like, it's okay. I mean, I think that's how we kind of get into these like stupid little like faux culture wars. like what they call a culture war, where it's like you have the woke versus the anti-woke, or what people, the people that are not into the woke stuff, and it's like picking a side and that type of stuff. Whereas like, I just want to be an author, and I want to put out my work and then let people talk about it and come to their own conclusions and based on their own interpretations. I don't want people to just be like, oh, this guy's known for being a conservative, so now we can look at their work through the lens of understanding that this guy is fundamentally conservative, or that this person is fundamentally a libtard. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want, I would just rather people like, just because my own work may not reflect my own personal beliefs, because I feel like if you are an artist, then you are able to, you are capable of like separating the art from the artist, in terms of like, what is it that you're doing with your work, or what is it that is happening in your work. Like, you can kind of disconnect yourself, and instead of like you're trying to bolster your own personal values or something like that, like perhaps you are exploring taboos, perhaps you are exploring ideas that would be perhaps dangerous or something like that, if looked at, explored in real life, that type of stuff. Or it's not always about like trying to just disseminate or perpetuate your own personal beliefs about this, that, or the other. Maybe you want to try to understand, maybe as an artist, you want to try to understand the world through the eyes of a villain, for instance. Now, at that point, can you judge the author based on that work? I would say no, because the artist, you would be making an assumption at that point, is what I'm saying. You would be making an assumption about the author that just wouldn't be true at that point, because that's not what the artist is trying to do. The artist is really just a conduit, if you will, for something else, a divine source, an idea that comes to them through their imagination, wherever that may come from or originate from, who knows? But it's just, the author just gets this spark, or the artist just gets this spark, and they just need to get it out, and it could be something like, I've made the example that it could be like expelling demons, like say the artist is haunted by demons of some sort, in a in a metaphorical sense, haunted by demons. And the only way to get rid of these demons is to create something, almost like to encapsulate or capture those entities and kind of bottle them up inside a piece of work. And you say, all right, I'm done with it now. I'm done with those demons. You know what I'm saying? I think that like one aspect of that is thinking about horror, because with some people, you don't look at a fucking horror story and think, oh, the author is a fucking sicko. Okay, maybe you might think that, but I don't. I don't look at horror genre in general and think to myself, wow, this guy is a real sicko. No, like they're just putting out a piece of work that something that came to them through their imagination, wherever the source may come from. It's mysterious. Who knows? And perhaps these ideas were haunting the author themselves. And the author is like, you know what? The only way I'm going to be able to get this devil off my back is to just create this piece of work. Create this piece of work and get it out there and just be done with it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's, that does fall under the umbrella that the author is not their work. The author is not their book. You are not your book. So yeah, you can get a little bit personal, like with your social media and stuff like that. But I feel like there's a fine line. I don't want to get too personal with my social media. I feel like when I do these live streams, like this is kind of enough. You guys get to interact with me. This is me. This is me, authentic me that you guys are getting. You don't need to know all about my personal life, but you get a chance to interact with me, you know what I mean, in this format. And I feel like that's enough. I feel like this is personal enough. You know what I mean? You guys get to have a direct line of contact without getting a little too close for comfort, if you will, on either end, as far as that goes. What do we got here? Hey, Herman. Welcome. All right, let's get back to the comments. I kind of went off on tangent there a little bit. But yeah, this is something that we could always talk about. And I like talking. And I would like to discuss that a little bit more with Thomas, because we don't have to come to the same agreement, about things. We don't have to be, 100% as far as that goes. So we got Hobo Sermons. I actually shared his video, and he says last week, if you guys missed it, he does live streams and he does live music, acoustic guitar. I don't know if he plays electric too, but he does acoustic guitar, and he does originals on Thursdays, and he also does some on Fridays. Now, I did mention something about Thirsty Thursdays, popping a drink, kicking back, but he actually, I'm fairly new to the Hobo Sermons. I actually learned of his channel through somebody else's Gilded server. So I joined other people's Gilded servers, and I learned of his channel through there. But apparently he does them early in the mornings. So he's an early bird, this one. So if you guys are ever up early in the morning, I think it's like 7, 8 o'clock Eastern time or something like that. But you can check out his channel. Of course, he's got some fans as well that showed up. It says let's see. Yes. Okay. So if we got Skunk Workshops was talking about when I was talking to James Craig, it says the main character is basically an AI inside World of Warcraft. Oh, shit. That sounds awesome. Oh, there you go, James. Looks like you got a fan there. And then you got A Dix. A Dix. Loved that Hobo Sermons number. It was pretty cool. It was an original song, by the way, that we played last week from his live stream. He was kind enough to stamp it for me. I appreciate that, Herman. Let's see. J.R. Carroll, author J.R. Carroll. Let's see. He says, I interviewed Richard Kadrey, who is a New York Times best-selling author of the Sandman Slim series. During our interview, he said he did not start receiving royalties until after book 5. Wow. And that was from Hot Topic, one of our ongoing discussions, Hot Topic conversations. Is Trad Pub obsolete? I will say this, JR. I actually looked up the Sandman Slim series, and I will say that the Sandman Slim series sounds spectacular. So I will say that much. It does sound pretty interesting. And yeah, after book 5, that's crazy. So what that tells me is he must have gotten a pretty juicy deal, perhaps a pretty juicy advance. If he wasn't either one of two things: either he got a really juicy advance and it took till book 5 before he could start collecting royalties, or his books were not flying off the shelf and it took a while to kind of earn back that advance. But judging by the Wikipedia on the series, it actually sounds like it's pretty good. And the series has been around. Let me just look it up again. I don't want to give false information here. since you're plugging it. So the Sandman Slim series is a fantasy, supernatural, occult, noir collection of novels. So basically right up my alley. That's my type of stuff right there. Each book is narrated by James Sandman Slim Stark, a half-human, half-angel magician who returns from hell to exact revenge on the people who sent him there. Definitely some CW type of material right there. I'll say that much. If it was to be turned into a TV series, Richard, if you're listening to this, maybe think twice before you sign a contract deal with CW. They might screw up your project here. But anyways, that's Sandman Slim series. But I was looking at the dates. What are the dates? It dates back to 2009. Wow. So it took from 2009 to, you said the 5th book in the series? That could be anywhere from, looks like there's a couple. So either 2012 or 2013. So in other words, from the time he signed his deal or his first book was published, I should say, in 2009, it took about 4 years before he started collecting royalties on that one. All right, from Lover Fighter Writer. From the same video, is TradPub obsolete? And that's where I was actually responding to his comment. He says, great response. To follow up on something you addressed, he says, one of the aspects of TradPub that appealed to many authors 10 plus years ago is the fact that the publishing house would handle all the marketing. These days, most publishers expect authors to carry some of that weight as well and prioritize people with large followings. Yeah. And we were talking about that a little bit. I used to think primarily about TradPub, but I'm not even interested in it anymore. I'd much prefer to self-publish so I can write about the topics I want in the style I want and create my own success. Well, here's to your success, Lover Fighter Writer. And stay in touch, man. You let me know. Give me some updates if you'd like. Share what you're working on with me. I'd be interested to know, and maybe I'll mention it during the stream. We got to kind of the indie scene. The thing about the indie scene, like where you're talking about with marketing, like they have the budget. Like the publishers, they still have the advantage that they're ahead of the curve. Like what we're going to see, I believe, in the future as time goes on, is that in the indie scene, there's different ways of being involved in the indie scene. So you can be self-pubbed. So that's just an author who represents themselves. But in a business standpoint, look at it as you are the sole proprietor. Okay. So being self-pubbed is basically just another way of saying you are the sole proprietor of your work. Then there's indie label. So you start an indie label, which is effectively, in a business sense, you're starting an LLC. You have a business name. You're doing business as XYZ. So that's an indie label. And indie labels, the function of an indie label can vary greatly from one company to another. So what the function of the label is exactly. And then the third way is like small press companies. So are similar to an indie label, except they have their own. The only distinction between the two is that they have their own press. They actually publish, they physically publish their own stuff or have a means by which of their own means of distribution. So even if they only do, for instance, like ebooks or EPUB or something like that, say they do it through their own website exclusively, and they don't mess around. They don't need Amazon. They don't piggyback off of some third party corporation, in other words. So it's like a completely independent in-house operation. That's how I would distinguish the difference between an indie label and a small press company. But all independent. And I say as time goes on, you're going to start to see some of these indie labels and small press companies kind of rise in popularity because they're building up. As of right now, we're kind of like in the stage where the name brands are just beginning. They're in their, build up phase where they're building up brand recognition. They're building up customer like trust. So to deliver a quality product at the end of the day. So whether it's working, representing a single author or representing multiple like other authors' work and building up that trust. But as time goes on, you're going to see some of these indie labels and small press companies kind of rise in the ranks. So it's almost like you'll have the big 5 or the big 4. Maybe it'll come down to like the big 2 corporations on the block that kind of own a huge swath of the market share in terms of IPs. But you then underneath that umbrella or aside from that, in the underground, within the underground scene, you're going to see, indie labels and small press companies kind of rise up as well and be recognized for the quality and the type of products that they put out there, whether they're niche and they only do like horror books or just the brand in general. And that's my prediction. So, I could go into more of that, but that's, we'll get to the topic another time. Edmund Stone, author Edmund Stone stops by the channel. He says, I'm with you, Jonathan. Revising and editing are my favorites as well. But I'm a pantser too. So I was talking about, that was when I was talking to James Craig a little bit about the writing process. And he said that he didn't like editing, which I think maybe it could have just been the line editing portion of it. But for me, I think line editing is a pain in the ass. It seems like no matter how many friggin' times I read a story, there's always some shit that slips through after I hit publish, and it's, it's annoying. But I think moving forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, instead of, just doing things on my own, like I will be looking for editors as far as that goes. Like I would like to have kind of not necessarily a team, but at least a few different editors that I can have almost on call. So if like I have one particular editor that I work with, if they're bogged down, I would like to have a backup and then a backup for the backup, if you will. Because when it comes to my work, I like my shit to come out on time, on schedule, on a very specific day picked out. Like that's just part of my whole scheme of how I do things. Because I pick very specific dates for my published premium works, and it's just kind of an ongoing thing. So I publish, like all my stuff comes out on a holiday. Like it's like different holidays, but they come out like that's my ongoing thing. I like to kind of keep that track record of having my stuff come out on holidays. Yeah, editors. You know of any good ones? I'm on the market looking for some good editors, some trustworthy editors that have some experience. So yeah, I'll definitely be commissioning some editors for my future endeavors, I should say. But I need them to be able to work on my schedule, though. That's another thing. That's kind of that can be a hurdle for some people, because I know that editors can get bogged down with work too. So it's not only finding a good editor, but finding an editor that can work on my schedule. You know what I mean? Like I'll pay you whatever you like. The rate won't be a big issue for me. I'll pay you whatever rate you want, but if I'm going to pay my negotiation, my blue chip in the negotiation is, okay, you name the price, but I'm going to need you to work on my schedule. And that's how that's going to go. And if that doesn't fly, then I'm going to have to keep it moving and keep looking. You might need one as well. All right, and this comes from John Michael Karma, some newbie to the channel. He says, that cool hobo sermons guy also does a live show on Friday mornings where he sings and plays cover songs. All right, so he's got original Thursdays, and the Fridays is cover songs, apparently. Well, thanks for the comments, you guys. That's the comments for this week. Decent amount. Can't complain, can't complain. I like to see more of you guys, light it up. And for instance, like with the comments section, we're going to be getting into a hot topic in just a second here. And I have some interesting news to share during this hot topic. But whether it be hot topics or any of the live streams, some of the things that you could share with me in the comment section, because in the comment section down below, you can kind of you can do a lot longer comments than say, like if you're live during the show. The live during the show, they kind of limit it to like 200 characters. Plus, I don't save the live replays. So after this live stream is done, I cut out the live replay. So unless your comments pop up on screen, all that shit is private. I like to keep at least a little tinge of privacy as far as that goes. But, you guys, I do appreciate you guys who want to participate live. So if you want to leave me a comment down below, you can kind of do a little bit longer, and you could do say almost like a full blog post if you wanted to down there, whether you're responding to hot topics or if you've read any of the books that have been featured on any of the previous live streams or anything like that. Please let me know, because a lot of the authors may actually watch these shows. If they're not watching it live, they may watch them, pre-recorded. Recorded, the replay after the fact. So, it might be nice for them to be able to see that there were people who picked up their book and what they thought of it or what have you, Let's get into the next segment here. This is the staple. This is kind of a staple of the live stream. It's a little something, it's a little something I call a hot topic for content creators. Now, for this one, let's see what I have here. So, what I have for you guys tonight, in the wake of revisionists violating Roald Dahl's legacy, we get to learn what a sensitivity reader does. Yes, hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around and create your own content on said topic. And if you tag me in that video or share the link with me, then I may feature your video during a future live stream. Or else you are welcome to leave your comments and your thoughts down below. Take some time, think about it, sit down, let it marinate, chew on it for a minute, and lay out a comment, a nice, long, cohesive comment where you're laying out your points. And what I'll do is in the future live stream, I will respond to your comments live on the air, and we'll go through it point by point by point. All right. So for this week, I do have an article, and this is actually going to be on one of our ongoing hot topic discussions. However, I think this is the first time that I've revisited this one since the original pitch, and that has to do with representation in fiction. That's right. I have an article to share here today. And this comes amid the controversy surrounding the Roald Dahl legacy. Yes, we're not going to be talking about that specifically, but kind of what the article itself is addressing, which is the rise of the sensitivity reader. And what the hell is a sensitivity reader? I do have an article here to share with you guys. And this is coming courtesy of Vice News, or just vice.com. And the headline reads, what sensitivity readers actually do. So what sensitivity readers actually do from a professional. So it says in the subtitle here, in the caption, after, quote, fat and other words were cut from Roald Dahl books, sensitivity readers are in the culture war crosshairs. Culture war crosshairs. Of course, Rayner already chiming in with his 2 cents. Don't need them. Their existence is a symptom of a broader problem. Interesting. Care to elaborate a little bit on that one? Or do you think it would be a little too controversial? Let's check out the article. Let me read a little bit from this article and see what, and let's learn. Let's not jump the gun. Let's give it a chance. Let me read from this source material, because they have an actual professional here, because I will admit that I've yet to interact with anyone that actually identifies as a professional sensitivity reader. All right. So I can't speak from experience. So this is going to be a learning experience for me. I will admit that much right now. All right. Here we go. Let me read a little bit from the article, and let's see if we get some talking points. So 2 words have incensed the British right-wing media this past week, catalyzing culture war columnists to momentarily exert themselves to file on time sensitivity readers. These freelance editors, okay, so they're freelance, they're not in-house employees. These freelance editors, typically hired by publishing companies or writers, were barely known to the average person just a month ago. Now, they're the center of the UK news cycle's orbit. Interesting. So the UK is adopting this. Go figure. It started with a Telegraph piece, which revealed that the new editions of British writer, that's why, the British writer Roald Dahl's children's books had been edited to remove language that modern readers would consider offensive regarding race, gender, weight, and mental health. Trying to let this lag clear up here. Lagging. All right. Look, this is hot topics. We're just talking here. We're just talking about ideas, all right? We're not attacking anybody. We're not going after, any demographics or anything like that. We're just talking about ideas here. We're talking about what is a sensitivity reader? What does it mean to be a professional sensitivity reader? These are questions I want answered. Say, for instance, if I wanted to hire, for whatever fucking reason, I wanted to hire a sensitivity reader, what am I getting for my money? What is the purpose? What is their purpose? All right, so here we go. For instance, Augustus Gloop from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is now described as, quote, enormous instead of fat, whilst the phrase a weird African language in the twits is no longer weird. This prompted quite an outcry. Sir Salman Rushdie, the author of The Midnight's Children, tweeted that the edits were absurd censorship. One Telegraph columnist likened it to the disfigurement of, oh, dang it, they keep popping up with ads. Likened it to the disfigurement of Roald Dahl's books. Even the Prime Minister found time to comment. His spokesman said works of fiction should be preserved and not airbrushed. So what's the point of all this? The changes in Dahl's work have reignited discussions over whether old literature should be modernized. Uh-oh. Triggering a backlash against sensitivity readers who have been accused of enabling cultural censorship. To learn more, Vice spoke to Philippa Willits, a sensitivity reader who has worked on magazines, blog posts, and books to offer specialized proofreading and editing. So specialized proofreading and editing. So Vice asks, so you're a sensitivity reader. What does that mean? Philippa answers, it's a relatively new role that's grown in recent years, and it's not always a clearly defined position. But I can tell you what I do. A publishing company or an author who is self-publishing might get in touch because they are publishing something that includes issues, themes, or characters that are disabled or LGBTQ+. Those are the areas I cover. As a white woman, I'm not going to do anything around race, for example. So I'm assuming that this woman is perhaps would fall under the umbrella of LGBTQ+ and disabled. I'm assuming, if that's the case. I then go through a manuscript and just give feedback. Sometimes it's on whether something seems realistic, but at times it's if somebody has used language that some people would find offensive. It is not my role on freaking lag, man. It is not my role to say, you must say this or not say this. It is always to provide feedback, and it is always up to whoever hired me to decide whether or not to make a change or not. So in this instance, I would say it appears as though this woman Philippa is being, honest and transparent in her way of doing business, which kind of begs the question of like for me, it kind of begs the question of like, who is it that's hiring her? Who are these people that are hiring this woman? What's that? Rainer says, which makes your story lame, bland, and still cancelable. Yeah, I mean, okay, I was gonna mention that, but basically, for me, what it seems like is like it's almost as if like you're like, who are, like, for me, it's not so much the sensitivity readers themselves, but it's like, who are these people that are hiring them? You know what I mean? Because it's almost like for one, like, why do you feel the need to why do you feel the need to defer authority over to some other individual in order to validate whether or not your work is acceptable, socially acceptable, and it's not problematic? You know what I mean? It just seems like such a weird thing to do. You know what I mean? It's almost like, what is the purpose of doing that? And it's because it's just one person's opinion, right? So it almost seems like a moot point. You're just basically hiring somebody. It's not even like you're hiring a beta reader or an alpha reader, or, you know, getting feedback from an actual professional critic or a critique partner, you know, with a book arc or something like that. This is just somebody that's like just basically just giving you a glorified opinion about your work based upon their perspective of the social zeitgeist, you know, like how politically correct. It's almost like you're paying someone with the intention of, I want to make sure this gets out, the freaking lag here. You're paying somebody with the intention of sterilizing your work. Like you're giving them carte blanche to sterilize your work. That's what I feel like it kind of boils down to. But we're going to go on here and see what else they have to say. So, next question. Why do you think sensitivity reading has become more popular? And she says, the demand is definitely growing, and more mainstream publishing companies are getting in touch with me now. Mainstream. I think authors don't want to publish a book and then find themselves in a Twitter storm, or realize through Amazon reviews that they've gotten something massively wrong. I just want a more specialized, or she says, I'm just a more specialized editor, as maybe the editor doesn't have the background I do. I mean, she's not going into detail about it. That's the thing. So the Vice goes on and asks, are the edits the Telegraph piece states the kinds of changes a sensitivity reader would normally suggest? She says, I can't be sure about them all. I mean, there were a lot of edits and a lot of changes. Without having been part of the process, it's very hard to tell. So it's a freaking non-answer. What did you think of the changes made? All right. So he says, what do you think of the changes made? And she says, I can't be 100% sure, but from what I saw, most of the changes looked fairly streamlined. They were changes that if I was rereading the books now, I wouldn't notice. I saw some people saying that some changed the meaning, but I didn't see much of that. Most of what I saw was pretty reasonable. So it's just political correctness, really, is what it boils down to. It's just language. What type of language? That's what I'm getting from this. Just what kind of language is considered politically correct for the time. Now, the problem with that is that you're dealing with something called God damn it, fucking lag. You're dealing with something that's like the Overton window. Okay, the Overton window, if you guys are familiar. So it's like, it's something it's like has to do with like political science and stuff like that in this instance. So like the Overton window, to kind of like sum it up, it's like moving the goalpost. What is considered, in other words, it's like, so in other words, I'm closing this article. I think we have enough to talk about. It's just creating so much lag because of the fucking ads. So with the Overton window, it's like, basically, in a nutshell, it's like what is considered politically correct years ago may now be considered politically incorrect in this day and age. So, for instance, there was a time when, all right. So basically what I'm saying here is there was a time in history when the term retard, for example, when the term retard was used as a clinical term. It was a clinical term, and it was defined in a clinical sense. That was the actual clinical term for talking about that, talking about a specific type of disability or neurological disorder. But now it's considered politically incorrect to use that term. And then they've had a different term, and then that term was considered politically incorrect. You see what I'm saying here? It just, like, the shit, it just keeps going and going. Like, it all has to deal with people's sensibilities, appealing to people's sensibilities. And the more sensitive people become to a certain term, because language can be altered too. Like, people, and it's very much something that happens through, in a liberal sense. The liberal mindset does like to do a lot of what they call redefining language. They redefine language constantly. Instead of just sticking to dictionary definitions, there's always like turning, there's slang terms for words, or turning words that were, or using words as slurs when the words themselves were never originally meant to be used in a pejorative sense. So that's what causes this political correctness slippery slope argument. So then, we're constantly like revising language. And now when you get into the realm of like how that affects literature, and that's what we're getting with the rise of this, what seems like this sensitivity reader stuff. So the sensitivity reader stuff has to do with revising. What I can see just based on this article is it has to do with revising language. Instead of saying this, why don't you say that? Instead of it calling it this, why don't you call it that? But being an author, sometimes you have to use or more often than not, if you're a good writer, you're using very specific language. You're using very specific language on purpose, whether it be to create atmosphere or whether it be to really hammer home a particular tone in your work. So I think that's why some people look at the Roald Dahl stuff and they're like, look, you guys, changing the word fat and saying hefty, or calling them big boned or something. Sure, the sentiment of the text remains the same, but it may not have the same punch as it did before, I think really is what the point of the people who are kind of up in arms about what the revisionists are doing to the work. Plus, it's not even the original work anymore. You're changing it. It's not the author's. That's not the author's words. That's somebody else's words. In other words, you're putting words in the author's mouth at that point. So then somebody who goes back and they read Roald Dahl's, one of Roald Dahl's work with these new revisions, they may think to themselves, oh, Roald Dahl was one of those politically correct folks. When in all actuality, he wasn't, at least according to the standard, the standard, at least according to the standard of the Overton window and the current zeitgeist. There's that aspect of looking at it. Rayner says, basically an activist to police your language. In China, we call them state censors or harmonizers. People despise them, rightly so. I see you censored yourself there, Rayner. Yeah, but I mean, it's this is just another thing that's out there, and this has to do with the representation. And this isn't throwing any shade at that one woman who participated in here, because she did make it very clear that it's not her. I mean, she's making suggestions as an individual who's reading the book. She's just a woman. You know what I mean? Women are sensitive as it is. Women get in their feelings and their emotions all the time. This is what women do. A lot of this politically correct business that we're dealing with nowadays is because women are involved in politics. I mean, let's just, call a spade as far as that goes. A lot of the political correctness crap that we're dealing with nowadays is because women are involved in politics and because women are emotional. They are very sensitive. They do get in their feelings. But then there's the men, there's the liberal men as well, the effeminate men that kind of echo that same sentiment. Doesn't help matters at all as well. But I come from the standpoint of like, look, if you can't, like, let me drop this right here. See, I come from the standpoint, like, if you can't take the heat, maybe it's time you get out of the kitchen as far as that goes. You can't be going around, we can't be going around censoring people's artwork, because once you start doing that, then it just becomes slippery slope. What's acceptable to, like I said, it's the Overton window. Look it up. I'll look it up right now just to make sure I'll look it up right now, make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. Yes, Overton window. Look it up. Those of you who like to spout out all this political correctness, jargon, and nonsense, look up Overton window. Overton window. Look it up. The Overton window is an approach to identifying the ideas that define the spectrum of acceptability of governmental policies. It says politicians can act only within the acceptable range. Shifting the Overton window involves proponents of policies outside the window persuading the public to expand the window or move the window. So in other words, what I'm saying here is when you start perpetuating this sensitivity reader nonsense, okay, where you want to police people's language, basically it's just an opinion. It's just some asshole's opinion, really, is what it boils down to. But in other words, if you're giving cachet to that, you're giving it weight, and you're saying that's a legitimate profession that deserves respect, you are part of the problem at that point. And what you are doing, maybe without your own fucking knowledge of doing it, is you are shifting that political Overton window. You say you're on board with what is considered socially acceptable speech or politically correct speech within whatever, within art, we'll say, for this example, because we're talking about books, okay? So what is considered politically correct and socially acceptable language in that medium. So then what that does is it shifts the Overton window. Once you hit a critical mass of people that are on board with that nonsense, it shifts the Overton window, and it then allows legislators, it then allows politicians and bureaucrats to kind of enact policies or put forth policies that pertain to whatever it is that you guys are perpetuating. And in this case, sensitivity readers and policing language. You see? So it's almost like when you shift that Overton window, you are kind of opening the back door, if you will. You're opening that back door just a crack for politicians and bureaucrats to kind of sneak in through the back door and slip in some kind of free speech policing type of policies and legislation, if you will, or regulation, in worst case scenarios. So just something to think about. You guys tell me what you think. You think I'm way off base here? You think I'm making a point? Do you think I'm kind of creating an argument for this? Like, what do you think? The conversation continues. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say on it. All right. All right, let's get into some reading time. Oops. Hey, take it easy, Rainer. All right, so this is coming. Hopefully it doesn't lag too much. All right, let's get in some reading time. If you guys have something that you would like me to read live on the air, so this could be poetry, this could be essays, this could be editorials, okay? Flash fiction, you publish flash fiction on your own blog, or you're a publisher who runs a blog and you have writers who publish fiction. You can reach out to me. Let's collaborate in this way. And FYI, if any of you have had your work read live on the air, you have my permission. You can download any of these live streams, okay, that you see. You can download any of these live streams. You can create clips. You can cut out, sections, like if I featured your book or anything like that, and you can edit the clips however you want, and you can use them for your own marketing and advertising purposes. All I ask is if you could mention me either by name, or if you can just link my website, that'd be much appreciated. Hello, Ice Queen. Welcome. Just in time for a little bit of reading. I'm going to be reading. So tonight I am reading probably the prologue, maybe chapter 1 as well. This is a serialized piece. And this comes from someone I was in contact with on Discord. It's called The Macabre Historia. And this is by Madame Lusa. And this comes via her Royal Road. So let's check this out. So Royal Road here, those of you not familiar, Royal Road is kind of like one of those websites for writers where you can publish stuff, kind of like Wattpad or Medium.com. It's specifically for writers. You publish on there. It's kind of build up a community. And so let's check this out. So here's the blurb on this one. So this is an original, ongoing action adventure drama. All right. We got a little warning label here. So FYI, this fiction contains gore, profanity, and traumatizing content. You have been warned. Let's see what we have here. In the land of Ragnarok, 3 gods known as oracles watch over life, death, and the balance between them. When an oracle nears the end of its life, a successor is chosen to take their place. These successors are known as vessels. Niall Moors, a young harping girl, is one such vessel, and that fact has placed a target on her back, a target that nearly led to her death and has separated her from her family. With no knowledge of the local dialect, Niall finds herself searching to reunite with her parents with the aid of a girl from the neighboring country of Arcamus. Yet unknown to both of them, the events that led to their meeting is but the reigniting of an old conflict, a conflict only the oracle remember, a conflict only they can solve, and will decide the fate of every life on Ragnarok. Of course, you're going to get new chapters every Thursday on this project, and the current cover art made by Nightmare Nico. So let's see what we got here. We got the table of contents. So it looks like the latest chapter was published 4 days ago. So it does look like the author is keeping up with their intended schedule as far as that goes. So check out the prologue, shall we? Prologue, last letter. In the final dawn, a phoenix rises, shaking ash and char. It held a name, a soul, a heart, but those who knew it already expired. It walked the land, looking for the one, the only one who still remembered their face. But where she went, a blade met her skin, and all around her became soot and ash. One day she might find who she seeks. One day she may find the only smile that had been true, a smile from a girl who, despite everything, had not been torched and told her to fly. To my dear friend Rosie, apologies for making you wait so long for my most recent letter, and I'm afraid it will be the last for some time. Things for me have gotten complicated in the last couple of days, and I fear to say I won't have the luxury of peace for some time. I can't say much, but someone wants me dead. I wish I could say more, but I worry I would be putting you at even greater risk than I am by having Teols deliver this letter to you. I hope he makes it to you unharmed. Despite everything I am saying, don't worry too much about me. I can guarantee you that while I am in constant danger right now, I will not let anyone spill my blood, and I will use everything at my disposal to do so. I wish this all didn't have to happen, trust me. Furthermore, I would love nothing more than to be sharing letters with you during this period, but I won't be able to. Perhaps if we are lucky, we might find a way to meet in person during all this. I doubt I would be able to stay long, but it would be nice to finally meet the person I've been sharing letters with face to face. If that day does come, I will try to teach you a little bit about falconry. What do you say? Also, stay strong. I know things have not been easy, but know that I'm always behind you. Take back your life. Don't let that father of yours hold you back from what you truly are. Perhaps I'll help with that too, if we do indeed meet one day. Sincerely, Natalia. The girl known as Rosie gripped the letter tightly, ignoring the hawk that was to her side at the moment. She did her best to keep herself calm and not break down. After all, everything would be fine. There were others she could talk to, people who would listen to what was troubling her. By all means, there was no reason for her to be as pained as she felt at that moment. That knowledge did nothing. As she sat down in the ground and ground her teeth together, she was asked why the world had shown her such cruelty. Even though there were others she could tell her troubles to, none would be honest with her. They would be too afraid to do so because Rosie wasn't some farmer's daughter. No, she was a princess, and none would dare tell a princess when she is in the wrong. Natalia, whoever the girl was, didn't know that, of course. It was what made their distant friendship so perfect and why Rosie could trust the girl with everything. She was an odd duck, Natalia, for despite how open she was with the princess, she never gave her true name. Perhaps they were similar to her, a person of high station with none who she could truly be open with. It was very likely, but Rosie wouldn't pry unless they asked first. Finally, she teared her eyes away from the letter. The caw of the hawk perched on the desk, snapping her back to reality. Rosie smiled at the hawk, whom Natalia had named Teolis. If she remembered, the name was the Harperic word for buddy. The thought made her giggle every time she thought about it, that her pen pal had given a hawk a name one would more likely give a dog. At that moment, the giggle was much needed, reprieve for the pain and worry that bore at her heart. Keep her safe, please, not just for the sake of the world, but for me, Rosie told the hawk. The bird nodded and cawed in reply. The almost human way it responded caught Rosie off guard. Excluding the harpin, she had never seen an avian with such human levels of intelligence. It did make sense. She knew Natalia was far more than human, and that her pen pal's connection to the bird was greater than anyone besides her knew. But it was uncanny. She couldn't help but wonder what Teolis was always saying to her, and if she approved of her relationship with their master. I guess this will be my last letter for some time, as well as my last time seeing you for just as long, Rosie said. Teolis moved to the side as she grabbed her quill, dabbed it in ink, grabbed a piece of parchment, and began to write. She always found writing to Natalia so much easier than talking to any of her servants or even her father. Her hand moved effortlessly from letter to letter, word to word, till the parchment was filled with her wishes of health and safety. When it was done, she placed the quill back in its holder as she and Teolis waited for the ink to dry. Here, your treat as thanks for everything you and your master have done for me over the years, Rosie said as she opened a drawer in her desk. She took out a jar of dead crickets, Teolis getting excited immediately as he eyed them. Rosie picked one up and held it out to the hawk, who took it without hesitation. I'll miss giving these to you. Here's to hoping that one day we can do this again. Teolis swallowed the cricket without hesitation and gave a loud caw. When the ink dried, Rosie rolled it up, enveloped it, and gave it to the hawk. Teolis took the envelope in its beak and, without a moment's hesitation, took off out the open window. Rosie got up from her seat and watched from inside her room as the hawk took off into the distance, her fingers crossed. Stay safe, Natalia, she said. May Ragnarok's soil guide you. And there is the prologue. Just a quick insight into the relationship of a couple of characters here, key characters, I'm assuming, for this entire story. So, for me, what this kind of sounds like is it's setting up an arc, if you will. So, like, it's pretty obvious that, or it seems obvious that at some point in the story, maybe later on in the story or towards the end, these two characters are going to come into contact with one another. Now, what standing their relationship will be in when they actually do come in contact is what I'm wondering. That's what's interesting to me about this prologue, if I'm to kind of read between the lines. Because as of right now, they are friends, pen pals, if you will, and they have quite a close, if not, even though it's kind of a implied relationship, as close as they can be, being once removed as far as that goes. So who knows? Perhaps these two may end up being enemies by the end of this story, but not knowingly, just through the actions. So it's an interesting setup, I will say that much. Definitely a lot of different directions you could go with that kind of a setup. It doesn't seem like there's a lot going on with that type of prologue, but there's definitely a lot that you could do with that kind of a setup beforehand. So thanks for sharing that. All right, let's get into the last segment here. We'll be wrapping things up. And that's where I get into some featured media for you guys. So featured media, similar to reading time, except with videos. So if you guys have book trailers that you would like me to feature on the show, if you have, like, say you do your own poetry reading, you have a video of your own poetry reading, or an audio, your audio sample posted somewhere, like on your own blog or what have you, and you'd like me to feature that. Could be like a video essay type of deal, an update thing, or in tonight's case, what we're doing, which is kind of a first, I believe this is a first for the stream, is we're going to be looking at what is called a book report, or at least that's what Boo Rad's channel is calling it. This is a video book report, and this was shared. This is Boo Rad's book report of the novel Beastmaster Conquest, Volume 1. Now, the video is by the channel The Boo Rad 97 via his YouTube, but this link is coming courtesy of TJ Morgan, which is actually the author of the Beastmaster Conquest. So let's check this out. I remember there was something that I wanted to say about this, but first we'll check out this video. We'll check out the format, and some of the things that the creator is saying about the author's work.
With the Iron Age of entertainment arriving and becoming well known to the public, I thought that I would take this time to go ahead and start taking more of a deep dive into some of the works that have come out. I particularly took an interest into this book that I would be reviewing for you all called Beastmaster's Conquest. This is volume 1 that is part of the Man Behind the Monster story arc. I have a real soft spot for stories like this and I thought I would share it with you all. So let's dive into this fast paced, medieval, and magical story, shall we? So let me take the time now to give you all an overview of what this story has to offer. The story starts off with a man simply by the name of Mortem going on a rampage against the city of Silverport because the ruler of Silverport, King Bradford, has been exploiting the city of Winterford for all of its money and resources, leaving the city impoverished and destitute. We later find out that Mortem was actually a high ranking officer of King Bradford's army and ended up betraying him due to the treatment of his home. Mortem has very powerful and unique abilities that mainly include telekinesis, or can manipulate material items with a simple flick of his wrist. Is Mortem a bloodthirsty monster for taking revenge against a tyrannical king? Or is he simply protecting his homeland from being taken advantage of against an empire set on conquering the world? I want to do this review without giving away any spoilers, for I want you all to come to your own conclusions and buy the book yourself. With the primary plot out of the way, let me go ahead and dive into what I enjoyed about the story at hand. I really enjoyed the atmosphere that has been established with this book. It is a dark, gritty, and unforgiving world that will eat anyone alive at any given moment. Each section of the continent on the world of Cornua is extremely different from one another. You have Winterford, which is a cold and freezing Arctic city, Silverport, which is a fair weather area in which the seat of the tyrannical empire exists. Then the last area we got introduced to is Necronia, a dark, nightly area where nothing but assassins and thieves exist. Each one of these areas have their own unique personalities and quirks. It makes the world seem alive, and the way they are described in the novel can be seen in your mind as they are described in the book.
Right off the bat, I just want to say, in terms of this guy's format, I do like that. These are the types of book reviews that I actually enjoy. Well, I guess in this case, listening to, like and how he has his videos set up right here and sectioned out. So like for his particular book review, or what he's calling book report, is like, so he's going to be talking about the atmosphere. He's to break it down to the characters, the story itself, and then it looks like he has his own final thoughts. So it's not just it's not just like him just sharing his opinion and saying I liked it or it was cool. The video game footage, I could probably do without the video game footage on there, but I know that that's popular nowadays for people to like have video game footage in their videos while they're kind of talking over it.
The characters in this book are interesting,
but for me it's a little bit distracting, but I'm just kind of not paying attention to it.
Unique and flawed. Mortem is a man hell-bent on revenge for the treatment of his home by a greedy and selfish tyrant of a king.
But I will say, as of right now, it does actually sound, the point that I'm making here is when you have videos like this, where it's like they're doing book reviews, but they actually take the time to like break it down into like sections or they go into specific sections of things that they're talking about, whether it be, okay, like one thing to like really tell if somebody like actually took the time to read the work, even if they call it a quote unquote spoiler free review, is if they do have these sections like this where they talk about the world building, the characters, and this and that, because that's where you actually get the meat of like what's going on in the book, and you can kind of tell through the little details that they share as to like whether or not they actually read the source material. Because there are some things where it's like people will do book reviews, but they don't really say a whole hell of a lot that indicates whether or not they actually read the book, and that's like that's why I say this is the type of material, even though it's labor intensive, I appreciate it. I like these types of book reviews on Booktube.
His methods of dealing with this are morally questionable, and even Mortem himself wonders if what he is doing is worth it, leading us to believe that this character is more than a man in a black suit of armor. We have King Bradford, a ruthless tyrant in charge of the capital of Cornua, Silverport, who will do everything in his power to maintain that power, even if that includes killing his own people to ensure that he remains there. His love of money and power have driven him to a point where he's willing to destroy whole cities to maintain it, driving those he commands to despise him and make more enemies than allies. We have Knight Lucas Bronson, a former pirate with a knack for engineering who wants the King of Silverport to use his ship designs to take over all of Cornua so he can make money, willing to do anything to be in the good graces of the tyrant king. Last but not least, we have Monica Wintergreen, a kind hearted martial arts and magic master who just wants what's best for Winterford, her home, whom we find out that she is also holding out hope for her little brother Jared to return home from finding a cure for her crippling illness. The story itself was written in the same format as The Witcher Season 1. If you have not seen that, probably one of the better seasons of The Witcher, starting with the end and working itself to the beginning. I find this style of story writing to be very jarring. However, when you get to the plot points that makes everything come together, it really does add up for a big payoff. However, I feel that this is also where the story itself suffers a bit. By putting the events that add up to the beginning towards the end, it makes everything feel shuffled and out of place. I also found sections of the book where characters were able to add up things that they should not have even known about within the context of the story. There were characters that seemed to know each other just because the story needed to happen. This was the biggest issue with the entire book, but other than that, I found the story intriguing. For the writing itself was direct, poignant, and descriptive. It was as if every word written meant something and had staying power. The descriptions of the characters was great. I mean, hell, just take a listen to a passage from the book. His tall, athletic build was covered entirely in a suit of black armor, and protruding from the sides of each of his shoulder guards was a miniature statue of a lion's head. Just like the real king of the jungle, the statues represented his immense strength and unrelenting fury, while the massive pair of horns mounted upon his helmet symbolized his superiority to all other warriors on the battlefield. Now, if I hadn't shown you guys the cover of the book, I'm sure that you all could visualize what was said here. And that is what I enjoy about these types of books. I like being able to visualize what I'm reading and play the parts out in my head as they are written. That is what I believe what takes a book from being mediocre to being memorable is the description of the events, places, and people. With all of that being said, I found the book to be an enjoyable action story with lots of interesting characters set in interesting places. I also understand that this is the first book in the series, and the author, Mr. T.J. Morgan, had to lay an entire universe in this
Mister.
one book, much like Eric July did with his stuff in ISOM. So in this book, get ready to read a lot of exposition dialogue, and I mean a lot of exposition dialogue. Hopefully, some of these issues get worked out in future books. However, I am interested to see where the story goes. Is Mortem an evil character? Does Monica Wintergreen get saved by her little brother? Does King Bradford take over Cornua? I hope all these questions get answered in this series. Anyway, I will always appreciate someone who wants to throw their hat into the arena and make a change where needed. Overall, I give this book a solid 6 out of 10. The vast majority of points being taken off due to how the story was written and how characters just seemed to know each other out of convenience of the plot. The characterization of them was great, and the descriptions of the world were solid. However, that's all I got for this one. Check out the link below to get up to 10% off your order at Coffee Brand Coffee.
Well, it sounds like this young man knows a thing or two about literature. It's not his first rodeo as far as reading goes. The way that he kind of broke that down definitely sounds like he knows a thing or two about storytelling. So I did like that. I did like that format that he was doing, this kind of book report, what he's calling book reports, and I would like to see more of those I will be kind of keeping tabs on that channel and see what else he's reading. He says he mentioned the Iron Age on there, so I wonder if that's if he's kind of linked up with anyone who is representing the Iron Age. But what I wanted to say about that is that I found that interesting because he was clearly a gamer bro, into the gaming and stuff like that. So what I wanted to say is that I find it interesting that what the Iron Age is doing and stuff like that, and kind of getting like there's all these like different like little kind of like movements, if you will, that are going on within the underground scene. Like I said, the underground scene is vast, and there's a lot of different little sections and pockets and subcultures and different things like that going on within the entire underground. And the Iron Age, the whole Iron Age movement thing is one of those kind of subsects of the underground scene. And I will say that I do find it interesting that it's kind of inspiring some of these like young guys that are mostly seem like they're into gaming and stuff like that to like start picking up some books and start reading. And that was something that I was kind of discussing a little bit, touched on a little bit last week with when James Craig came on, talk about his book. And, I would like, it's a trend. Basically what I'm saying is it's a trend that I would like to see continue, it's one thing if we have writers out here publishing books and the indie scene is rising up in terms of independently published media and stuff, specifically with books. But if there's no one reading the books, there's no one reviewing the books, there's nobody out here critiquing the books, well, you don't have a culture at that point. You just have a bunch of people. You just have a bunch of people publishing work. That's only one side of the coin. You got to have people who are willing to read the work, but not only read the work, but like engage with the work. And by engage with the work, I don't mean like just reviews, like how he's doing, and he's creating content. That's one way of doing it. Creating actual content. Like, for instance, it doesn't have to be just reviewing the work, like sharing your personal opinion. It could be analyzing the work. For instance, like if there's theory, like a lot of writers, like when I was talking with Herman Hunter, had author Herman Hunter on the live stream. We were talking about like there are people who will get into like writers that do like theory craft and stuff like that, like within their writing. So it's like it's like you're writing, there are certain things put into your writing that are open to interpretation. There may be answers involved, and it creates a community. It gives the fan base something to do where they can speculate and they can come to like these theories about this or that. Oh, what about the woman in the red dress? What do you think she's all about? And this and that. You know what I mean? So creating content, in other words, like if you want to get involved in the indie scene, it's like you can create derivative content based upon the works that these artists are publishing within the scene. So you can actually create content, build up a channel based on derivative, like it's content that is derivative of projects that are coming out within the scene, in other words. So, and that's what we could really use. The scene itself could use more of. There's always room for more as far as that goes. So you out there, you're watching this and you've been kind of sitting on the fence. You don't know, maybe start a Booktube channel. I'm not saying you have to focus on just indie, but just start a Booktube channel where, maybe you read some books and you're just logging stuff. You start logging stuff like, oh, I read this book this month, I read that book this month. Oh, I discovered this new author, through so-and-so's show. I discovered this new content creator who has indie authors on and they discuss things. I'm thinking about picking up their book. I'm going to start a book club, you guys. Are any of you interested in being a part, or you want to do a buddy read with this new indie author's book with me? Start getting engaged, get involved in that way. And you can create, that's what I mean. You can create derivative content based on the works that these indie artists are putting out. And it's vast. There's so much to choose from. You know what I mean? I'm only one guy. I can only read so many indie books. But I'll tell you this, I've said it before, when I do pick up indie books, I do take the time to reflect upon the material. I do take the time to review the material, and then I'll write my own editorial on the piece itself. Now, editorials don't have to just be critiques. You can write editorials, like say you start a blog, say you don't want to do a Booktube channel, but you want to start your own blog where you talk about indie works. You don't have to just do like critiques where you're evaluating the work. You could come at it from different angles too. Like you could say like this work, but under the lens, like you're looking at it, like say you could be looking at through a social lens, like a social commentary. You could be looking at it through the lens of, accuracy in terms, like if it's a sci-fi, you could say, oh, would this work in real life? Type of deal, coming up with subjects and topics. There's so many different ways in which in other words, you don't have to be an artist to get involved in the indie scene. There's so many different ways that you can approach the indie scene and use the work that these artists and writers and authors are putting out there, and to create your own content, discussing these things, talking about them, coming at them from all different types of angles. And then what happens is now we have a culture. You see what I'm saying? Now there's a culture. Whereas before, it's just a bunch of indie artists just chilling their work, just saying, oh, buy my stuff, buy my book, buy my book. That's not culture. That's not culture. Having a crap ton of everybody and their grandmother has a book to publish is not culture. That's just products being put out onto a market. There is no culture until there are people who are appreciating those works. And by appreciating those works, I don't just mean buying them. I mean talking about them, analyzing them, or creating book clubs around these works. That's culture. You see what I'm saying? And there's this shift that's happening right now. We're living through it. It's a paradigm shift where we're going away from mainstream. We're going away from Hollywood, where it's this kind of hands-off. Everything is served to you, the consumer, on a silver platter and saying, here's this summer's blockbuster hit. Here you go. Or here's the New York Times bestseller. Here you go. Enjoy. No, we're going away from that, and it's more of a hands-on, interactive kind of scene, interactive type of culture where there's a role for everybody. If you want to be involved, if you want to get involved, no matter how much time, how much free time you have, there is a way for you to get involved in some shape, fashion, or form. Even if you don't have the time to host these things, say, for instance, like book clubs or live chats or stuff like that, maybe you can get involved in other people's book clubs. You see what I'm saying? Boosting it up, bringing more eyeballs and attention to it in that way. Get involved. Don't just sit on your hands, but you work the keyboard. You're sharing your own opinions. Or maybe you start a blog and you write and you do written work every now and then. If you don't have the time to do like videos and edit them and posting them on a regular basis, it's a very exciting time to be alive, That's the light at the end of the tunnel here that I've got to kind of say, is that it's a very exciting time to be alive because you have the freedom to kind of make all these different choices. It's a beautiful thing. I think it would be, imagine if we didn't have the internet right now. Imagine the internet is turned off like that. We have no internet anymore. We have no social media. We have no means of communicating with each other anymore. What do we got after that? We know what would happen. We got to go back to fucking boring ass television. That's all we got at that point. Television and the people who are in your immediate circle. That's it. Try starting a book club then. Try creating a fucking podcast then, a show then. Who are you going to get to watch? What are you going to go stand on your local corner and be like, hand out flyers? Be like, hey guys, come over to my house on 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday nights and listen to me talk. Like if we can't communicate with each other, if we can't use the internet to communicate with each other, regardless if we're strangers or not, we're coming together. This is all strangers coming together and becoming a part of this new culture, this new cultural phenomena, if you will, that is transpiring in our day and age. Then what is the point of the internet? You know what I mean? So in other words, it's exciting. It's something that I get hyped about. I like seeing this develop before my eyes. Is it, it's not always perfect. It's like we're kind of just figuring this, for me, like I'm still, a lot of this stuff I'm just kind of figuring out on my own, kind of flying by the seat of my pants here, but I'm trying my best to try to present some sort of structure, and kind of get this ball rolling. You know what I mean? Eventually I'd like to go back to, focusing more on my art and my writing. But as of right now, I feel like there is a need to kind of get this ball rolling and get people on board with this whole like indie scene, because it's a community based activity. And what I mean by that is not community as in like it's some sort of communist thing or it's a cult thing. It's just community based in the sense that it requires people to be engaged. It's not idolatry. In other words, it's not Hollywood idolatry. And it's like kissing people's ass, and it's about celebrity status and this and that. No, that shit's weird. This is like peer to peer. Like, are you creating cool shit? All right, let's talk about it. And then people can create their own content and derivative content of that. And I would say, as of right now, one of the big topics that I think, for some of us, for the people in like the Booktube, Authortube realm of YouTube, maybe start talking about the idea of more content creators who create derivative content based on indie works. And by derivative content, what I said before. So like book clubs, buddy reads, analysis type of shows or podcasts. I mentioned the idea of doing like roundtable discussions. So like, say for one example would be like, if you do like serialized fiction. So like serialized fiction where it's like episodic. If for one idea would be like, if you had like of doing like a roundtable type of fan-based discussion type thing, like around that work simultaneously as the episodes are coming out, it's like one hand washes the other as far as that goes. The author coming out, the artist coming out, and they're creating these works on a consistent basis. You know what I'm saying? This is an artist or an author who has already earned the trust of a substantial group of people, you know what I mean, who are active and engaged in the scene. And then creating like these creating derivative content, backing the project, saying, hell yeah, if you continue to do this, if you put out like a 13 episode serialized fiction series, then we will do like a show type thing where we will post a new episode each week after the episode goes live, and we'll talk about it. We'll kind of generate, some buzz around it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like one hand kind of washes the other in that way. Not necessarily to be in the sense of being a tit for tat, but I'm just saying it's one example of how people can have fun with this whole underground scene and this indie scene, and how it's kind of community based in that way. It's not just, hi, I'm an indie author, buy my book. Hi, review my book as the content creator. No, it's like it can be deeper than that. You know what I mean? It can go deeper than that. And it's just an idea that I kind of wanted to touch upon and kind of pitch. But as of right now, we're still kind of going through this cultural shift. There's a paradigm shift that's happening. So people are kind of like, I feel like we're in the early stages right now where people are kind of just feeling things out. There's getting comfortable with being online too, because it requires you to kind of come out of your shell a little bit. So there's that aspect too that you got to keep in mind. So, people kind of getting comfortable with this whole virtual reality shit. Okay. But then, as more and more people become comfortable and they kind of settle into their own niches and roles and what they're comfortable doing, and find what it is, like the type of content that they want to create, you're going to see that there is going to be some kind of synergy in this whole thing. Like there's going to be people that you can connect to and you can make connections with that are actually going to have value in the long term. And that's what I'm excited for. And I can't wait, to be honest with you. I can't wait to see what transpires in the coming years with this whole thing. There's all these different movements popping up, these movements, it's interesting to see it all play out. So that's it. That's it for the live stream for this week, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you. Same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week.